an ordinary event. That's the do now right now. Now, once again, like I said earlier, you guys can find adventure in pretty much any and everything that you do. So, based on what you have on your Chromes, who wants to tell me how you can find adventure in an ordinary event? Raise your hands. Hill. Louder, please.
We can find adventure in ordinary events by exploring the different concepts while being in or while doing the event. For an example, if we were going to the store to get some groceries, we could make an adventure by exploring different types of food, juices, and vegetables.
Alright, now, what would the adventure be, per se? Would you make up a song? Would you make up a dance? Like, what could you do, specifically? You could do a song, so you could sing a song about fruits and vegetables.
Yes.
Okay, alright, a little bit louder. Anybody else? How can you take an ordinary event and create an adventure out of it? Monica.
We can find adventure in ordinary events by taking things that are in front of you, or taking something that you're doing that's boring and make it interesting to you, or making something like that you like.
Like what? That's why I have to be specific. Like what? What can you do?
Like you can dance, you can sing, you can act, you can do like gymnastics.
Alright, or you can use your what?
Brain.
You can use your brain. What is that called, using your brain, Ramos? What's that called? What's it called? When you kid use their brain and they're being creative, what is that called? Jaden, help them. What's that called? Not mental, Jay.
Imagination.
Your imagination. Very, very good. So you can use your imagination to do just about anything. Horta, what do you have?
We can find adventure in ordinary events by using your imagination or by thinking something boring into something you like you think is fun.
Like what? Be specific. Like what?
Like for example, your mom tells you to use the cleaner and clean the windows, and you pretend that the cleaner is a football while you're cleaning.
Okay, you could do something like that. Now, what if, I'm going to just throw this out, what if you're sweeping the floor? What do you use to sweep the floor, Aline?
A broom.
A broom. What could you do with the broom if you're sweeping the floor? Because a lot of you have, raise your hand if you have household chores. Alright, how many of you have to actually sweep the floor in the kitchen? Alright, now, keep your hand up if the radio is on in the kitchen. Alright, so what happens when, now I know we have different musical tastes, we've talked about that before. What happens when your favorite song comes on, Billy, and you're sweeping the floor? What happens then?
Take the broom and you act like it's a microphone.
You take the broom neck, it's a microphone, and you sing into it, alright? Now, a lot of y'all don't listen to music with guitars in it per se, but what would you do with it if a guitar part came on, Chester? What would you do?
You would pretend it was a guitar.
And do what? Show me. What would you do? Now, look at the seriousness on that man's face. That's all his imagination right there. Alright, very good. What else could we do, getting back to the question? What else could you do to make an ordinary event somewhat adventurous? What else could you do? Jenny, what could you do?
You can, let's say that you're watching TV and your favorite TV commercial came on and there was like people dancing, you just started like copying their music.
Okay. Alright. Now, I'm looking for an adventurous answer out of my person always gives me interesting answers. Mr. Barfield, how can I find adventure in an ordinary event?
Like, you can go to the park and play with your friends and act like the slide, like you're sliding down a volcano.
Oh. Alright, or you're escaping something like that. Now, let's bring it back to school. Let's bring it back to school. Alright? There was a day, not so long ago, when we were lining up to go to lunch from recess, right? And I said, alright, boys versus girls. Let's see if we can keep the straightest line. Alright? The first day we did that, who won?
Boys.
The boys won. Why do we, or how did the boys win? It wasn't because girls were popping out of line, but there was something that the boys were doing in line. Some of y'all were doing something. Similar to the military. What were y'all doing?
In the straight line.
Ramos, what were y'all doing? What were you doing in a straight line though?
We were like marching.
Say that again.
Marching.
You were marching. Very good. A lot of the girls were kind of like la-di-don all over the place. Alright, but the boys were in a straight line and they were marching. Now, we're not a military, we're not an army, but it looked good. Alright, single file line, it looked great, and the boys won.
Yep.
They looked organized. Alright, Meanwhile, when I sat there and said, good job, boys, a lot of y'all marched harder. Meanwhile, the girls on the flip side were a whole lot of getting mad at each other, right? So, that was Finding Adventure in the Ordinary Event. The story that we're going to do this week, The Skunk Ladder, is going to take, it's the story of two young men who find an adventure in something simple. You just joined us. Did you want to give us your answer?
We can find
Louder.
adventure in ordinary events because there may be a bit of a challenge. Like on the weekend, I was supposed to go to breakfast day, but I ended up going to Sky Zone because it was too cold. So I was there with my godmom, kids and everything. So we were all playing, and you know, at certain times, we were about to leave, but my little cousin didn't want to go. So it ended up being an adventure because everyone was trying to get him, like chasing him to come with us.
Okay. Alright. Alright, last one. How can we find an adventure in an ordinary event? Chester.
You can find adventure in ordinary events by using your imagination and think of something you want to do. When I do something in my imagination, I always pretend that I'm in a show that I love and do what I want to do. Imagination can transform you and make you look cool. You can become a monster, dragon, whatever you want to be. You can make up a story and have you fight bad guys. These are how you can find adventure in ordinary events.
Very, very good. And as I said earlier, the story that we're going to be doing this week is going to be all about these kids using their imagination to take something so simple and a great adventure comes from it. Alright?